So it's several hours since I officially woke up, and there are a few things I wanted to tack on about the dream. If anybody knows what any of this means, and for my own memory. Before the incident with the clown and the fish, I was flying. I was flying around in the air, and I was looking down at roads, a long strip of road and other smaller streets coming off of it. It reminded me of the strip of road that goes out to North Wildwood from the mainland, this long road that connects the island to the mainland that runs through marshes. That's what it made me think of. That's what it sort of felt like. Like I was looking down at something that was somewhat familiar to me. The home in North Wildwood is right near Cape May. My cousins grew up there, so. And I was sort of being directed, I was being shifted around, sort of flown around and looking at a few different spots, areas around there. And I don't remember yet the other places or things that I saw. I just remember I saw flashes of other things in other places before it settled on me being at ground level, looking up and down this street. And it wasn't the same, it wasn't that, at this point, it wasn't that strip of road that connects North Wildwood from the mainland. This seemed like a smaller little town road. And I was hiding behind a horse. Around the back end of the horse, I remember in the foreground of my sight, I could see the outer edge of the horse's ass and some of the legs. And I was sort of peeking around the backside of this horse. And I saw, at first it was a group of people together, and it seemed like they were holding stuff, maybe like a rake, and like as if some of them were holding lawn equipment, but it was a fairly large group of people. I would say at least 20 to 40, like a small town's worth of people, very small town's worth of people, or neighborhood. And then for some reason they started splitting up, and one group went up the street a bit a ways, a few yards, and the other group sort of held back and even backed up down the street in the opposite direction, like 1 or 2 yards, and they were just facing off against each other. And one of the guys who was standing off to the side, because they were sort of, when they were a single group, they were standing sort of partially on the street and partially on the side of the street, and then they began splitting up. And as some of them were splitting off into the second group that sort of held back, one of them came into the middle of the street rather than going into either one of the groups. And that's when he started behaving and looking a bit more like a clown. He looked a little portly, I remember. And he had like a leaf blower or something. He had some kind of, it was long, narrow, thin yard tool. So I think it was like a leaf blower. And remember, not all of this is me picking apart what I saw in the dream. Some of it is me just feeling it. Like I felt like that was a yard tool. I didn't necessarily see that it was a yard tool. I just knew he was carrying something that was long and sort of on the thin side, and I felt that it was a yard tool and like a leaf blower. And he started sort of performing and putting on an act, I guess to make the people laugh, to kind of calm down whatever quarrel had started up. And then the leaf blower turned into a fishing rod. And then suddenly there was a fish he had caught on it. I didn't see him cast the fishing rod. There was no water that I saw nearby. But he had just suddenly caught a fish while standing in the middle of this street between two quarreling groups of people. Or maybe they weren't even quarreling. I sort of got the feeling they were. They were splitting off, at least, into two groups and distancing themselves from each other. So yeah, in the beginning of the dream, I was flying and looking down at a place that felt sort of familiar. I've had other flying dreams in the past. I have this one recurring flying dream that I get once in a while where I'm just cruising along, I'm in the sky, looking up ahead of me at the forests and hills and mountains ahead of me and beneath me. And at some point I realize, though, I'm in the air. I'm gonna fall. Could I fall? I start looking down, and as I start looking down, I begin falling. But then always right before I'm gonna hit the ground, or several yards up, I stop looking down and I look up again at the horizon and at the trees and the mountains, and then I start lifting back up and flying again. So what do you guys think the clown and fish dream means? When it comes to the wombat thing, never be the back wombat. I don't know if you're making fun of me, calling me an asshole, if you're saying never be the person who just gets shit thrown in their face, like you're being sort of indignant about my being mean to you. I don't want to be mean to you. It's just like I'm just clicking right into enemy mode when thinking about you, dealing with you, talking to you anymore. I don't know what else I could possibly do. I don't know what else would be a smarter thing to do than to perceive you as my enemy and treat you that way. And if I have to be overt about it so that I never let myself forget that you are my enemy, then so be it. Because I've let myself forget that people who were trying to harm me were trying to harm me, and that only ended with me getting hurt, like. So I don't know how much of the whole love thine enemy thing I can go along with. Maybe love them on some level, but for me it's harder. I have to set very firm boundaries. I have to constantly remind myself, this person is my enemy and they will hurt me if they get a chance. But it's like, what do you expect? Again, after the way you're handling all this and the Thomas Pallone incident, like that felt like a very dangerous trap I was being lured into. And I still, again, I don't feel like that's been explained properly. Videos and symbols are not going to cut it. And speaking third person about some animals, that's not going to cut it in terms of an explanation for that. I don't know if you're saying, like, with the hiding behind a tree thing, that I'm dealing with my fears by using tobacco, smoking cigarettes. Yeah, I get it. I get it, dude. But here's the thing. It's not just a dealing with my fears thing. I quit tobacco. I quit for a month. I've quit in the past for longer than that, just to prove that I can. You know, I've quit harder things than that were harder to give up. I've given up much harder things. It's not a matter of self-control or laziness. You should be careful to differentiate between laziness and hopeless depression, dude. Perhaps life should teach you that difference. Because from where I'm sitting, again, it's looking like you can't come down here and have any good things for yourself unless you become a monster. You can't come down here and just be a decent person and have any amount of success. You're not going to be a millionaire if you're a good person. You're not going to have a family, a good family. You're not going to be able to raise your kids right if you're a good person. And from where I'm sitting, it also looks like you and your associates are making it that way. So you've nullified the point. Like, if anything ever... if I ever get to, like, go back to some kind of source, to the highest power, whatever, and lay myself bare, if my opinion counts for anything, if I get to have a say in, like, you know, all of existence, at this point, I'm thinking I'm going to be like, wipe it clean, you know? That place down there, just destroy it. It's not worth it anymore. You can't be a good person and survive down there. You just can't. And you can't have a family. You can't have a good family without sacrificing some part of your goodness. Which is not fair at all. And it ought to be fair. Maybe that's just the Libra in me, but it ought to be fair. If it were fair, then people should be able to be just as successful as you, Zay, or as Richard Hart, or as Tony Robbins, or the Rothschilds, or the Rockefellers, or the Bushes, or the Clintons, or the Windsors. They should be able to be just as successful as those people and not have to hurt children and do evil things. That's fair. So I'm just going to be like, no, they've destroyed it. Congratulations. They've nullified the point. You can't have a family down there, not really. And again, if you don't think that family is the point, say, let me shore this up. Let me just cut the fat off of it. Make sure I don't leave any loopholes. If you don't think that family is the point, if you think that the journey and the struggle is the point, then leave your family. And that goes for all of my suspects. And for those of you like Richard Hart, you don't have, as far as I can tell, you don't have a partner, wife, or children yet, don't ever have any. Spend the rest of your life alone. All of you. So when I say leave your families, I don't mean for a day or a weekend or a holiday or a few weeks or a few months. I mean for the rest of your lives. I mean while you're still drawing breath and walking around and eating on this planet in the flesh. For the rest of that time, stop having contact with any kind of family. No partners, no lovers, no children, no parents, nothing. Go be as alone as I am. So yeah, if I get any say, I'm just going to say wipe it out. Wipe it out. And even if I have loved ones down here, like, I'd rather their flesh bodies stop functioning than they have to make the choice of just suffer over and over again a torturous life as a slave, keep running up that hill, keep thinking, success could be right around the corner if you just work a little harder. But no, the truth is the only way to have a lot of success, monetarily at least, and to have safety and security and autonomy and be self-sufficient really without killing yourself, constantly working sun up till sundown 7 days a week, is, you have to sell your integrity and your innocence and your goodness and become some kind of a monster that abuses kids. I'm just gonna say, wipe it out. It's not worth it. It's a circus. I think the clowns took over and turned it into a circus. I really don't want to be mean to you. But again, it's like, you have to understand, you should be able to understand that you are responsible for a good amount of the trauma I've been dealing with. Trauma makes one inclined to just want to curl up in a ball. It's like, I can't be kicked another time. I'm tired, man. So you want to be impressed with self-sufficiency and fortitude in a person, but you just kick them. This is disgusting.